Hi, John.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome.
You look great.
Well, I thought I'd put on a little something.
Yeah, let me put my arch up here. Oh, and I think I'll see if I have the other one. I changed computers, and of course you never have the same thing you had.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a small presentation
Okay. You're
that
gonna
I,
do
that'll
PowerPoint.
accompany. Yes, it's
PowerPoint.
a PowerPoint.
I'll make sure you can share your screen. Yep.
Right, right.
Yep.
Um,
No
and
problem.
let me know if it's not sharing correctly. Actually,
Okay.
we can try it out
Try
now.
that now. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me get out of here. What am I trying to do here? Okay. Okay, so you should be able to do it now.
All right. Let's make sure I get the right screen up here.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, so let's see, share screen. Yes, I want to share this screen. All right,
There you go. Look at
are
that.
you seeing it?
Yep, see it fine.
All right, I'm gonna click on it, make sure it's running.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yep, it's good.
awesome. Okay,
Back in the days when you had hair, huh? Okay.
yeah. I think that would be the standing joke there.
Right. Oh God.
So
I never know whether people just lose their hair or do they just cut it off because it's such a fashion statement anymore.
well, it was a combination of both.
Yeah,
I started losing the hair on the top,
yeah.
and then receding, and then whatever hair I had would not grow right. It would just be
Right,
patches.
right. Yeah.
So I said, the heck with it,
Heck with it.
just cut
Yeah.
it
You
all
look
off.
good in it. You look good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the last of my brothers to lose the hair.
Okay.
My two younger brothers lost their hair before I did. My
Before you
oldest brother,
did.
yeah, my oldest brother, he lost his hair.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
running joke was I always had the hair, and they didn't.
Right. Okay.
So,
Good.
so how many students are we expecting?
There aren't that many this semester. Usually they're anywhere from 4 to 6, but we usually have more alumni than we have students.
Okay.
We had 12 students last semester, so last spring rather. We do it.
Okay.
We only do it in the spring. So I'm not sure why, but it's a new course, so too it's got to, it's got to sit well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Carol, who else? Who's besides yourself? Who's leading this effort?
It's part of the AALU programs committee. Now
Okay.
that committee doesn't come on either,
Okay.
but it is an official program of AALU. It started out as through my chapter as a Chester County program, and then Baltimore chapter and the Triangle Triad chapter in North Carolina joined in one year. And then the alumni love it. So they said, let's bring it in under the Alumni Association. I said, great. Because I'm for one that I can't join something just to pay membership. You need to have a program, or not just one either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this was a program, and they've got a few more. We're doing one for Women's History Month this month. And then the young alumni do programs. So it's coming. It's sort of a new venture for the AALU. Why it's new, I do not know. But
Yeah. I've done these. I mean, the Alumni Association is calling it alumni. I mean, Lion Speaks, but I've gone back to the university and spoke, several times.
Several times, yeah.
Over the years, and
that's good.
So I always welcome, this opportunity to.
I think it's good. Yeah, yeah.
I had every intention to be on campus, but we have some there's small things I need to deal with here.
Yeah,
So,
well, we do, fortunately or not, but it's all virtual. The
yeah,
students are live in class on Mondays, and then Wednesdays is the, the alumni presentations.
okay, all right. And the professors, what class is this? What's the professor's name
Oh,
again?
this is Dr. Button's E412. It's a creative writing class.
Dr. Button?
Dr. Marilyn Button, which I don't think she was at Lincoln when you were there. She wasn't certainly when I was there, but she's been teaching now over 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah, she's terrific. Yeah. She's terrific.
Yeah,
she was a chair at one point.
Okay.
Of English and communications.
So the students in this class are mostly communication majors or English majors?
No. They're not even mostly anything. There is one is a political science.
Okay.
One is biology. Okay. Anybody can sit in or anybody can join. Usually it's because it's a 3-credit class. It's usually something that the juniors or seniors are looking for to help fill in their graduation,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to speak to that in my remarks.
Right. Right.
That's how I got into the environmental field.
Really?
Ironically, so I can understand what that's all about.
Right. Yeah, that's scrambling that you have to do that last year.
But you're a 67.
67. Oh yeah, put yours class year.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to do it. I was just looking at that.
So you're Bob Ingram's class, John Mee's class.
Yeah, class of 76.
76.
Class of 76. Yeah. Yep. Survivors of 76. We were the largest class to come onto the campus with the largest contingents of women on the campus. More than half our class was women.
Oh, that's good. Make sure you mention that because that's what the students are looking for. They're to learn the Lincoln history.
Yeah, that's a piece of Lincoln history.
That is history. Yeah. Yeah, we want to try to give as much about. They always ask questions. Well, what was it like when you were there? I said, well, I was there in the age of dinosaurs. It's nothing like that now.
I was going to say you came in right after they went co-ed.
Right? Yeah, right. Or as they were. Well, it was officially co-ed in '54, but they weren't not residential co-ed.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So and the campus is, gosh, I don't even recognize the campus.
I know. There's no way. It's nothing like it was.
I like, where was that? What happened to the student union building? It's here, but it's not here.
I tell them, I says, look, when we went to college, there wasn't an internet. There were no computers. There was no cell phones.
we had to go over to the Langston Hughes Library.
No, if you didn't get to the library, you were out.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Did you pledge a fraternity? I thought, Joe said you were, and I said, I don't know. I didn't see it on your resume.
There's some things I put on certain resumes.
Yes, right, I got you.
I put on, I have.
No, you were right.
But I didn't pledge at Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
I did hang out with
the grad chapter.
I pledged an Armstead alumni chapter.
Okay. Oh, okay. So my friend Paul Badger.
Oh yeah, I know Paul Badger. Wow, this is a small world. Of course.
Well, he and my first husband were good friends. They grew up around the corner from each other.
Okay.
In West Philly.
Well, that's where I hail from.
Right. They remain friends always. I mean, he and I don't know if you remember a guy named Harold Clay. They were all in the same block.
No, that one's not ringing a bell.
Yeah. But so Paul and Audrey my first husband's name was Bill Adams. And as a matter of fact, he used to teach at West Philly. You might have had him as a teacher.
What year?
He was there in the 60, he would have been teaching 64, 65, 66, no, 64.
Yeah, he would have probably taught my sister and brother. Okay. I got to West Philly in 69.
You see, Joe finished West Philly in 64.
January 64.
Okay, so you're
Oh.
after, here's Jeff, you're
I
after him.
heard another voice in here.
Hey, brother. How you
Hey.
doing? I know you, brother.
Hey, if I knew, my brother. I don't see you on the camera, but
Well, hold on. I'll come a little closer.
I'm gonna,
Noopy. Dr. Button, hello. Hey, how are you?
hi, Dr. Button.
Hi. Hello, Professor Armstead, right? Is that the pronunciation?
It's Armstead. That's correct.
Great to
I'll take it off, I'll take it off,
It's okay.
virtual, because you can't see anything on virtual.
There he is. There he is.
How you doing, brother?
What's up, my brother?
Okay.
You-
Hello,
you-
Dr. Button.
You're not gonna heckle me, are you?
No. Strictly educational.
Okay.
Plus, I gotta live with my wife.
I hear that. I hear that.
Dr.
I
Button
totally
doesn't wanna
understand
come to Jennersville Hospital to get me out.
There is no Jennersville Hospital.
No.
Right.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a message that there was another company that was trying to come in and take it over.
Yeah, they
That's
keep-
still in the works.
They're trying, but you know, I forget, the Tower Group is the one who reneged on the contract. They were supposed to stay there for another 4 years, and they just absolutely broke the contract. So that's why it's in litigation.
Ah,
And the court saying, no, you have to, adhere to the contract.
yeah.
So,
They must have ran out of money, a lot of money then.
yeah. But it's bad because in emergency, you
You gotta go away to
gotta
Delaware.
go to Delaware, Christiana,
Wow.
Delaware,
Wow.
which is why that stabbing on campus was really
Tragic.
tragic, even more tragic, because if he may not have gotten medical care in time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they did. I mean, the ones who weren't killed, the ones who were not killed, yeah.
Sounds like an opportunity for some urgent care facilities.
Right, definitely.
Maybe get a hold of some of these Lincoln doctors and get their heads together and thinking about what that
Would
would
be good, would be good.
Hey, Joe, I was just talking with a young man who just became a State Farm insurance agent down in
Who?
Tennessee. His name is Isaac Feldman down in Tennessee.
Okay.
So if you see,
Where in Tennessee is that?
you know what, I'm not sure because
Okay.
I only even met him virtually. So he was working with me on another organization, and he recently left that organization to take this position with State Farm. So,
Great.
I told him I knew somebody in there in the, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet.
The only problem is that I've been around 50 years.
Well, you could, if he gets back to me, I can put you in touch with him.
Oh, no problem.
But he hasn't gotten back to me yet.
When you talk to him, just tell him Joe needs your alias.
Joe needs you.
Happens- Yeah, what happens, State Farm gives everybody a alias for the internet.
Okay,
As soon as your alias pops up, gives you your name.
okay.
Go back to you. Which one? I'm okay.
Oh, no, I'm good. Where are our young people? Well, it is kind of early for them.
You know what happened on campus today, right?
No,
No,
oh, God.
Okay, so what happened on campus, where are we here? What happened on campus is that there was a car accident outside on Old Baltimore Pike that blew a gas pipeline of some sort.
Wow.
So no heat on campus, and an email came out saying evacuate, which of course is not what it meant. It meant stay put. But what happened was people started to leave. So we got another message saying stay put, there's food. And so there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. I'm not on campus now.
Oh,
I
dear.
don't know what the repercussions will be. Bria just called me. She hit her head on a dryer. I said, this is a good opportunity for you to get happy. I'll see you soon.
God.
Yeah, so we've had an exciting day.
Wow.
But no, it's okay. They're coming through. The students are just working hard, some of them.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
Ah,
Semester's going so fast. Oh my God.
It is.
Mhm.
yeah. I just put my midterm grades in. It's like we're already halfway through.
Mhm.
You're at Villanova, right, Mr. Armstead?
That's correct. I'm at Villanova.
Uh-huh. When I came to Philadelphia in 1980,
Art and what? Art and what?
wait, whatever. I was looking, I tried to teach wherever I could. I'll teach anybody, everywhere. And so the bottom line is, the guy who is at the chairman of the English department at Villanova hired me. I had been teaching 6th grade girls in Connecticut, and I came to Philadelphia and started teaching freshmen at Villanova. I love that school. It was a wonderful experience.
Great.
So,
Yeah,
I have a, mhm. Sorry.
They're building a university. If you haven't been back there lately, just like Lincoln, it's changed dramatically.
Wow. Yeah. I just always feel bad. Those kids constantly walking across Route 30.
Oh, there was an accident there a while ago. I remember they made
Yeah.
steps to prevent more accidents.
I wonder why I think they finally put a bridge walking.
There is a bridge over 30 now, like it's
Yeah.
right there that the
Yeah,
students can
but they're
walk.
still out there in this road.
Well, it's the
Well,
kids gonna be kids.
Kids will be kids, right?
I just came from the University of Delaware, and they're building housing. I mean, I went by 5 housing projects that are going up. I mean, brand new, spanking new apartment buildings, unbelievable. I mean, the growth in at UD, it just blew me away.
Yeah,
Haven't been down there in 2 years because of COVID.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting started at what time again? 5?
Well, we tell them 5:15. We usually it's more like 5:20.
All right.
Last week, we were pretty good, I think.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we did good last week.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is, I don't know anybody's guess what's happened to them.
So I'm gonna speak for about 15, 20 minutes. Hopefully I won't get too long-winded and open it up for questions for folks.
Mhm.
And I'll leave it to the two of you to moderate the time, obviously, to let me know. And Carol, or is it Marie or Dr. Button?
I'm Marilyn.
Marilyn.
Yeah.
Who's going to be monitoring the chat?
Both of them.
I can monitor it. I'll monitor it. Mhm.
In case any questions come up, because the chat function tends to be a distraction to me when I'm speaking to the folks.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's very distracting.
It is. It is. Okay, Bree
So
is
I
on.
don't,
I'm really interested in hearing about this advisory to the Justice Advisory Commission. That sounds really important and interesting.
it is, and we have some meetings coming up, and we have our first bill that council wants us to take a look at and provide some input on as it's passing through council, through the councilmatic process. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to being able to have that kind of input to, policy changes and regulatory changes and, the whole works within the city of Philadelphia as it pertains to, EJ.
Mhm. I figured you might be appointed chair, or has that chair already been designated?
We are in the process of working that through. I took it upon myself to draft a governing document for the commission, and we're now going through a review of that, vetting it, getting all the comments from the commissioners and
Mhm.
signing it. And Joe would tell you, I'm somewhat of a parliamentarian since.
Oh, tell me about it.
That's good. That's good. You need that.
I'm a stickler to making sure we have something that's going to govern our activities, and it's important for us to have good bylaws in place and as we are an independent agency, so the city doesn't manage our
Mhm.
deliberations, so we have to manage ourselves in that sense. But we are a legal entity, under the Philadelphia Charter,
Mhm.
so home charter. So we are a governing body, so we got to act like one.
Sure.
Let me, for those who don't know, the brother that you're going to hear, he is a parliamentarian. He does, I mean, hey, I have experienced his parliamentarianism.
In other words, you had to shut Joe up, right?
That is right.
Okay.
There are lots of points of order and out of order.
Hey, hey, man, he ain't supposed to bose me, man.
No,
My brother.
no, I know that happened.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Rob.
Hi.
Oh, I know. I was trying to recall her name. Here it is. I met Allison Acevedo. Do you know Allison? She heads the state environmental justice program.
Hmm.
No, but I'm sure I'm going to be meeting her.
Mhm.
Lots of folks have been reaching out to me lately on this.
Yeah, and then let me see her. Then one of her bosses was, who was this guy? Somebody last name Buck. Of course, they're on the states.
They're at the state level.
State
Yeah.
level, right?
Yeah.
But I arranged a meeting with them and with Dr. Allen to. They were looking at doing an environmental justice symposium at Lincoln next year.
Wow.
So I'm hoping that comes to fruition.
I hope so too, and would be very interested in contributing to that effort.
That's good.
Even
Good.
lining up some speakers. If
That'd be great.
there's some good folks out there that have been in this space for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they said they had never done anything at an HBCU. So I was glad that they were looking at Lincoln.
So I've heard from Bria. Bria's here. She has contacted the other students. Talana is not coming. And Ayana has been affected by the gas leak, apparently.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Hi, Bria.
Mhm.
Hi.
I saw you said hello.
Oh, Bria.
We're talking so much we couldn't get
It's
our fingers
okay.
working on the keyboard.
It's okay. How are
My
you?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just asking how everyone is.
No, we're good.
Fine.
We're good.
Okay.
Going good.
So is the mess cleared up, the gas leak or whatever?
No,
No?
no, we're actually being told to well, as I speak, like as we speak, we're actually being told like to try to get off of campus immediately. But I live in Maryland, so it's not that easy for me to go home like that. So
Right.
yeah.
I thought the directive was to stay put. That was what the emergency telephone was about.
Nope, there was an updated email sent around 3:55 saying for students, if they can, to please get off campus. At first it was to stay put and then they changed it.
Wow.
Whoa.
I take it there's a gas leak at Lincoln and one
Yeah.
of the buildings
Yes,
on the ground.
yes. It's like a pipe or something because like two trucks, like really big trucks, like the big delivery trucks, like kind of collided and like hit a pipe or something. And then we don't have any hot water or like any gas, like the caf is closed, like we can't eat. So yeah, that's why
Like
I
when
guess
Rob
they're inviting
Johnson
us
was
on
there.
campus.
And this happened today.
Today, yeah, a little while
Yes,
ago.
this is all this morning.
There must be a transmission line that comes near Lincoln there. Wow.
Check to see if there's anything on in the newspapers.
Let me tell you what Talana's our lawyer to be, and she says students have to evacuate campus right now, and I'm in the process of doing so. And Ayana has said, I'm sure you're aware, that an email was sent out to the staff and faculty about the heat and water. No one expected this. Please allow us some time to get started. There are students leaving campus and they've called for an evacuation. Class does not technically start till 5,
Wow.
whatever. So that's what's happening here. I mean, I would be, since we have the privilege of Mr. Armstead for being here, I think we should tape it and have our class listen to it, to your
Mhm.
presentation, unless you want to reschedule.
Oh, no, I think this is just go ahead. And fortunately, it will be recorded. It is being recorded as we speak.
Okay.
And we'll gather the students again.
Okay, and we'll discuss, we can discuss, we're taping this
Yes.
meeting.
So Dr. Button and Bria, are you both safe?
I'm all right, thank you.
Well, I mean, your safety is first. Are you on campus still?
I'm still on campus, still trying to figure out how to get home, but I said I'll worry about that when class is done, because I mean, I can only control me coming to class for right now, so.
I'm surprised the university is not even dealing with that, because there's got to be a lot of out-of-state students there that.
Yeah, it is. So I'm not really sure. They said to like let our area coordinator know if we're going home or not. Like I guess they're getting a head count just in case they have to move us off. I'm not really sure.
So Bria, does this affect the heat in your room?
Yes.
Yes, I have no heat. I have no water. I have no anything. They're like they shut down the wellness center for like where we go get food. Like that is like that's not an option anymore. So like we're just like cold, and we can't wash our clothes or dry our clothes or anything. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm kind of upset. And then like that means like my TV's been like slowly not working. So soon enough, like I feel like the power is just gonna give out.
So wow.
Yeah.
The situation is not well, and I'm okay with rescheduling this talk so that the students can participate in this. It just makes sense to me that they're the primary folks that I want to speak to.
Mm.
No problem.
And while the recording works, it really doesn't, because I was hoping for some give and take.
Yeah, I know.
I will have some questions to the folks on the call, and that engagement won't be there with the recording.
That's true.
And right now my schedule is pretty flexible. I finished teaching my class for the semester, so I have a fairly flexible schedule until August, because I'm retired.
Don't rub it in.
So how about this? How about if we go ahead and have a conversation?
We can have that.
Let the students get the information, you know, you can provide the background and we can have a discussion about Lincoln Days or your work. And then the students can review that. And then when we reschedule you, when you come back on, they will have background information, and then they can prepare questions for you. They'd be given to you in advance. And then that dialogue will take place between you and the students, and then the rest of us.
I'm comfortable with that. I was going to share my screen here. I only have like 14 slides. They're not wordy slides, but it helps with the flow of the conversation.
Well, we'll be students for the day then.
You'll be students for the day.
Yeah. Hi, Reggie.
Hey,
How's everybody?
How you
Good.
doing, Reggie?
Hey, John, how
All
are
right,
you?
thank you.
It's
Oh, you
good.
guys are classmates.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, I'm doing well. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing well too. I see you follow the same path that I did with the hair.
Yeah.
Wavy hair.
Yeah, well, what
Wavy
happened was,
goodbye.
well, for a long time, I only had half a head of hair. And then when the barbershops closed during COVID, I said, well, you know, I was paying a full price for haircut anyway. So I decided to take it all off.
Right.
And my wife likes it. So
Yeah, it looks good. I think it's very handsome.
thank you.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, so what,
Maybe
why don't we go ahead?
Are
More
we expecting
informal.
anybody else? I mean, more folks?
They sent all the kids off campus.
I'm not talking about any alumni. Did you have any more alumni?
Well, no, I don't know. There should be more alums. I don't know where they are either. So,
All right, well, they pop in when they pop
yeah,
in.
they'll pop in. Yeah.
So let's see here.
Yeah.
Let me get this going.
Okay, John. Thank you, John.
I'm going to share my screen in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Button, you're muted.
I'd like to introduce you formally before you start.
Yes, please. Okay.
And is it professor? How do you like to be addressed?
Oh, you can just call me John, from the class of 76.
All right. Okay, great. Well, okay, so today we welcome John Armstead, class of 76 from Lincoln University, to our class, our special topics class, Lions Mentors. A prominent environmentalist, activist, and experienced scuba diver, he recently retired as Director of Land, Chemicals, and Redevelopment Division of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for Region 3, where he directed, managed, and coordinated the administration of the nation's environmental programs in the region since 1991. Some of those programs included the Clear Air Act, Toxic Substances Control Act, Emergency Preparedness and Community Right to Know Act, and Safe Drinking Water Act. He made history last month when he was appointed to the City of Philadelphia's first Environmental Justice Advisory Commission. A graduate of West Philadelphia High School, he will share his story as a student at Lincoln University and his incredible journey since graduation. Alumni and friends are invited to Zoom in. And we have some of them, but not nearly enough. So we welcome you today. Thank you so much for coming.
And
And
thank
Yana
you.
just asked me to send her the link, so I guess she's going to come on.
All right, well, she'll come in the middle of.
Yeah, she'll come in, yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Button, for inviting me and having me be a part of this, and Carol Black. I really appreciate the Alumni Association reaching out and doing this Lion Speaks. This is like an awesome opportunity for alumni to give back in an unintrusive way. And so I'm looking forward to sharing with you my career trajectory. So I'm going to share my screen to get us going here. And all right. Everybody got that screen?
Yes,
Yep.
Awesome. So I thought we would start off with, well, let me, oops.
Yeah, it's not your first one. There you go.
Wait a minute.
There you are.
There you go.
There you are.
All right. You got the first screen, right?
Yeah, now we got Lion Speak screen.
Lion Speak. Okay. So as the name, thank you, class of 76. Proud Lion, came through Lincoln as the first male in my family to go to college. My sister was the first in the family to go to college, where I'm one of 7 and I'm in the middle. So as you can see from my titles here, commissioner is my most latest title to the Philadelphia Environmental Justice Advisory Commission. I'm an adjunct professor at the Villanova University, and I recently retired from the EPA Region 3 office here in Philadelphia back in 2021, January 2021. But this is a story, I guess, about me, and Reggie, you're not allowed to laugh at this picture. You probably recognize it from our yearbook. It is my graduation picture, and I was so proud. My parents were so proud of that, and I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate also President Allen for her commitment to the academic learning and leading and liberation of the young minds at Lincoln University. I mean, her commitment to her Lincoln community, because she too is an alum. And I particularly want to note this because I've been working with Dr. Allen on building the university's environmental program, particularly in sustainability. And so continue to do a lot of work with the university there, working with Dr. Hall over there at the university, building the environmental program. As a Lincoln graduate, it's absolutely a special honor for me to be with you today. I'm a member of the bicentennial class, the class of 76. We were the survivors of class of 76, and perhaps over some libations, I can tell you why we were called the survivors. We were a class that had, great noble ideals that we wanted to achieve, all the greatness that was in front of us. And we went through the university eyes wide open, not even realizing the rich history that we were about to soak in over the 4 years that we were there. I started off at Lincoln as a history major, though. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And then I switched over into the science program area. The irony is, we were talking earlier before the actual presentation was to start, at how Lincoln students have to take certain credits in order to fill up their card so they can get their diploma, their degree. And so at Lincoln, I started off as a history major coming out of West Philadelphia High School with the idea of studying African-American history, because I wanted to know more about that. So when I got to Lincoln, we had to take a science class. And so I was trying to find the easiest science class I could ever find. And at that time, back in 1972, there was a program called ecology. Dr. Bush was running the program. And so I took that class, and I got hooked on the environmental side. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on in my presentation. And so at the time in 1972, there was no environmental science program. There was no such thing at Lincoln. Lincoln was known for shaping the minds of future doctors and lawyers and other brilliant scientists in the field. Great literary folks out there, as we all know, Langston Hughes being a son of Lincoln, and Thurgood Marshall being the son of Lincoln. So I went into the science of biology. Became a biology major, and basically the rest is history. So when you think about environmental management, as my career started off, I didn't start at EPA, but yet the EPA's mission to protect human health and the environment, ironically, aligned very well with my own career path, but I didn't quite know what it was, and that's what I mean when I say Lincoln really immerses you in the idea of finding yourself, and they really helped me find my passion, which was in the environmental field, although there was no such thing as environmental field, but mainly in the sciences. And so as I was coming up, the study of science led me to the environmental field over the years. And the irony that I wanted to point out here is the mission of EPA was something that I was always, brought up to understand and to appreciate from my parents and from my grandparents. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. The environmental programs. This is a little public service message. I can't can't do without sharing a little bit about the concern that we have in the environmental pollution realm and all of the challenges that we have in our nation with respect to environmental concerns that are affecting us, how we live, and how we arrive at this point where we are today, where we are fighting the rafts of pollution in all of the things that we do in our lives. But let me just walk you down the path where I ended up at and how I got to where I am now, where I'm more concerned about the challenges that we have going forward. So one of the things that happened to me early on was my parents had me involved in Boy Scouts, scouting, if you will. I was from a Cub Scout and Boy Scout. And it helped shape my love for nature, having me outdoors. It got me out of the city. So they encouraged me to look at science, even as a young kid. I was taught to look at the science of things. They brought me a little chemistry set. And I don't know if you folks may remember some of these who are from the 50s and 60s, the little science kits you used to buy. They bought me one of those, had a microscope and all that. And I would go in the kitchen and take stuff out of the kitchen, go outside and take stuff out and put it under the microscope and study it and try to understand what was happening. So that was my first taste of the science. But at the same time, I had this passion for history, and I still do have that passion for history. And I still study and read a lot about our past history and some that was not written in particular. But the thing that really got me going was that I had the privilege of having good parents and mentors in my life who instilled in me a passion to follow the road least traveled. And I've always had the inclination to not always follow where the crowd is going. And so I was always considered the weird kid or the nerdy kid. And if you can imagine, coming from an African-American, West Philadelphia hood, was not always a good vibe to have. But with the good mentors and my parents, they kept me on the road, strayed off a little bit here and there, but they always made sure that I got back to where I needed to be. And so as I pursued my career in environmental management, I am, I'm encouraged by the number of African Americans that are finding their way into this environmental field. As in the early days, I was a lot of times the only person in the room, person of color. One could count the number of minorities in the field of environmental management in those early days. That is not the case today, although we are still not represented at some of the higher levels, but we're making progress. And so I particularly like this slide in the sense that, Einstein talked about those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And that really governs, my psyche going forward. And what I want to share with you all now is just give you a sense of where my academic training began and how it flowed. And then I want to dive a little bit into my career path. And hopefully there'll be an opportunity for Q&A later on in this presentation. So first, academic training. West Philadelphia High School. Came up, I'm a product of the public school system of Philadelphia. Got serious about what I wanted to do in the 11th grade. I had a good professor there. I call him professor, even though he was a high school teacher, but he was a follower of W.E.B. Du Bois. And one of the things that he gave us as one of our assignment was to read the book From Slavery to Freedom. And when we got that book, we said, "Are you out of your mind?" The print was small print, and the book was at least 3 inches thick. And we said, "You know, you want us to read this?" And indeed, he did. And thankfully, I'm glad he did, because that's where I got my instinct to, you know, I want to know more about my history as an African American. And so that's why I came to Lincoln, to study African American history, because that Lincoln was the only school that I saw that was really doing any kind of scholarship in that space. And so henceforth in 1972, I found my way through the gates of Lincoln University as an incoming class of 200 plus students, one of the largest classes that came to the university at the time. We were excited. We were excited in that we were fresh out of high school from all over the country, all over the world, and just meeting all these people was just awesome. To be in the presence of such greatness. And then the upperclassmen, of course, they were being typical upperclassmen. We didn't know it at the time until we became upperclassmen and became typical upperclassmen. But it was an exciting time to learn so much about the university and its sons and daughters who have come out of the university at that time. So, as I mentioned earlier, Lincoln had a requirement that you had to take, you had to have some elective in the science area, and I was trying to find the easiest science class that I could possibly find. And it was this course called Ecology by Dr. Bush. He was a recent University of Delaware graduate, and he brought this course. And I said, this looks like it's going to be something that I can breeze through and I can get back to my history focus. But little did I know that he reignited that passion of understanding and appreciating nature and science in me in that course. So much so after that first semester, I switched from a history major to a biology major at the time, because there was no such thing as environmental science in those days. And so I matriculated at Lincoln as a biology major with a minor in chemistry. And interesting enough, I hung out with all the guys that were going off to med school or going off to be scientists in the field as research scientists, whether biologists or chemists. But I knew all of the folks there, and they used to always kid me that I was the bird and bunny guy because I stayed true to my passion. I was traveling that road, least traveled. This is what I wanted to do. I was the bird and bunny guy. And I stayed with it all through Lincoln University and graduated in '76. I made it through in 4 years. Many of my classmates did not make it through because Lincoln does have a very challenging academic program. And if you don't take it serious, you will find yourself on Route 1 back.
Right.
And so I want to say that to the students that are on this Zoom call to know that you are getting a rich education from this academic institution. So from Lincoln University, I went on to the University of Maryland, where I studied botany. My initial goal was to study marine and estuarine science. At the University of Maryland back then, it was challenging, number one, to think about a minority coming in and wants to study science, and number two, you want to study marine science. And I was told that I did not have the academic strength to make it through the University of Maryland. And so I was required to take some undergraduate botany classes to, quote, prove myself. Well, I did that. I came out of that class with a 4.0, which is a testament to the training that I got at Lincoln University. And so I could then make the case to the university that you now had to fully accept me into the program and accept me and give me a graduate assistantship. I spent 2 years at the University of Maryland. I was never brought into the Marine and Estuarine Science program. They pushed me into a botany program, agricultural, which is ironic because that's the area that I learned much later on that this was a field that, you know, minority, particularly Blacks, were forced into to study if they are studying or matriculating, you know, in the field of the science. But I didn't want to do that. And so I left after 2 years. Did not get my degree from the University of Maryland. But alas, I did not stop. In between there, and I'll talk about, you know, my career, in my career steps, some of these other coursework that you see, classes that you see coming up in these future academic training areas relate to my career path, and I'll relate back to them when I talk about those. So while I went to work for the state of Maryland at the time, but I kept my interest here of academic training, and at the time, computer systems were starting to come into play. And so I went to Montgomery County Community College and studied computer science. This is in the early days. And so I found that I had a passion for information management. And you see that's going to come out in my career, going forward. I did get my master's in public administration from Temple University here in Pennsylvania. As I developed my environmental career, I understood and needed to be in a position where I could make decisions and affect policy direction. And so I set my aspirational goal to be an executive within the agency that I ended up working at, the Environmental Protection Agency. And along the way, my job, EPA, saw the potential there, and they too said, yeah, we want to continue to develop. And so they sent me off to the Kennedy School over at Harvard University, where I've taken a number of Kennedy School courses in executive training, developing my skills as an executive to lead and direct programs, you know, for this nation. And so I was very pleased with the support that I did get from the Environmental Protection Agency to allow me to further my interests based on my academic career and background. And so with that, all of this training really helped me to really have a good, you know, preparation for the career that I chose. And so I want to talk a little bit about my career path, which started shortly after I left the University of Maryland. Fortunately, I had the vice president, actually the vice provost at the University of Maryland, who was an African-American, who really did not want me to leave, but he understood why, because I was not getting the academic support at the university, which is something that he was really trying to combat. Fortunately, I think the university is a lot better now from the last I've seen, a number of things that are happening there. But I went to work for the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, and later on, the Maryland Environmental Services. And there, I really got to utilize all that chemistry that I learned at Lincoln University. I was a chemist. I worked in the labs there, analyzing pollution sources. This is back now, mind you, this is back in the late 70s and early 80s. So I'm in the lab. We were trailblazing in the sense of trying to understand these different types of pollutants. At my job with the Maryland Environmental Services was also related to a lot of the field work, but a lot of data collection. So those computer training, I got a sense that I really needed to understand how information systems worked. And so that's where the Montgomery County helped me with developing those skills, because we were collecting data from sludge entrenchment sites around the state of Maryland. We were taking groundwater samples and taking them back to the lab and analyzing them for constituents that may be found in sewage sludge that was being entrenched around the state of Maryland. This was part of the Clean Water Act work. And at the time, I was still a young pup learning about environmental statutes. But at the state level, I was at the state level here. So after 3 years of there, ironically, as I mentioned earlier, EPA was founded in or created in 1970. But it took time for regulations to come into play. But when they did, the EPA was hiring, furiously. And so they were reaching out to a lot of state folks. And I had a good mentor at the in the state level who said, you need to go and take a look at what EPA is offering, because the state could not offer me what I was looking for. And so I applied, and the first job I got at the Environmental Protection Agency was a program manager for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. And the program, not diving too deep into it, but the Hazardous Waste Program, the law itself was passed in 1976, but the regulations did not come in to play until 1980. So it took 4 years to write the regulations for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. And so shortly after that, they were like, we need program managers to manage this program. So I was hired as a program manager to help implement these new regulations at the federal level. And so after several years working as a staff person, as a manager, someone at the EPA Region 3 office said, this young man has some management potential. Let's see what we can do with him in a management job. And so my next big career job movement was as an enforcement section chief for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. And there I really honed my skills on understanding the environmental program and how to implement it. Interesting enough here, though, is at this time I started developing a sense that I really wasn't in a position to drive the program, but I wanted to be there. And so in order to get there, I needed to build my academic background. And that's where the Temple University training comes into effect. And the agency was thoughtful enough to help me pay for some of the classes that I took at the Temple. They didn't pay for all of it, but the ones that related to the work that I was doing at EPA, they certainly did. As part of my master's public administration training, I had an emphasis in information management, so that I knew that the system management was going to be an essential element to my work going forward. So the next job that I took was a special assistant job to the deputy regional administrator. And I got criticized for that by a number of folks, because I was one of the few minorities in a management position, and folks said I should not have given up that. But I had a bigger sight in mind. I had a bigger goal in mind. And as a special assistant to the the deputy regional administrator, it allowed me to see how EPA functioned and operated. And at this time, I was still at Temple University studying my master's for public administration, so it fit very well with that. And so from there, I went on to Washington as a special assistant to the administrator. And I worked on the agency's 1990 budget. And so I learned how to formulate budgets and understand the budgeting lingo and understanding the difference between formulation and implementation. It was an exciting time for me to learn at the highest level of the agency on how the budget works. And I say this to any student that is looking at any organization, whether it's public or private. If you don't understand the budget, then you are going to hamstring yourself in your career if you are pursuing something in the area of leadership. Budgeting is one of those key elements that I would encourage you to, you don't need to become an expert. You can hire folks to actually do the nitty-gritty, but you need to understand how it works. Coming back to the regional office, at the time, the Superfund law was passed, and they were looking for individuals that could help with the implementation of this new law that governed the abandoned sites called Superfund sites. And so I became the site assessment section chief at that time. And this particular job really enabled me to use my information management skills, as well as my newly learned master's in public administration skills, because this job had responsibility for managing the first local area network within the region. And I had an opportunity to help build that network to really hone the information management functions within the regional office. I had an opportunity to manage the toxicologists and hydrogeologists, so the science portion of the program, and also to manage what we call the Freedom of Information Act and governing. So I had the communication piece all well in that one section. So it's an opportunity to really get a sense of how overall the organization works. So much so that when the deputy director job for the hazardous waste management division came up, I put in for that job, but I really didn't expect to get it because there's a branch chief level in between the director, the deputy director, and the section chiefs. But the director, as well as some of the other leaders within the organization, saw that the potential in me was there. And so I really thought that one of the other branch chiefs would get the job, and then that would open up a branch chief job. But lo and behold, he came and he tapped me and said, no, I need you as the deputy for the entire division. We had over 300 folks working for us in that, and we had both the hazardous waste management program and the Superfund program and the toxics and pesticides programs, all in this one division. So we were a pretty large division, in fact, the largest division in the regional office. And so I did that job for a number of years, 10 years to be exact. And then, like all public organizations, we reorganized and they split off some of the parts of the program. Superfund became a division by itself, and then the waste and chemicals division. So that was the hazardous waste program and the pesticide and toxics program. And I became its acting director at that time during the reorganization. But lo and behold, I was not ready for the permanent job. So they asked me if I would take the deputy director job as the environmental services division, which my career path fit and my training fit. Here I managed the regional laboratory for the Philadelphia office, which is a fairly large operation. Our laboratories are down there in Fort Meade, but at the time they were down in Annapolis. So we ran all environmental samples would go through this laboratory services. In this division was also our wetlands program. So I got my first exposure to the water programs with the wetlands part, as well as the National Environmental Policy Act, the NEPA program that was in this division. So moving on, as I continued to develop my skills and focus, the organization reorganized again and created an environmental data office and asked me to become their acting director there to help organize how we manage our data within the EPA Region 3 office there in Philadelphia. And then from there, I was asked to then move on to a position down in Washington again, called the Office of Information Collection. And this is pivotal in the sense that this was where my executive training really started to kick in. And because I was now being groomed in the area of becoming an executive leader within the Environmental Protection Agency. We call it the Senior Executive Service, which is the highest level that you can attain in public service at the federal level. And so I was in what we call the SES development program at this time, and this was my assignment to Washington again to hone those skills as we move forward. Coming back to the regional office, continuing to round out my experience, I became the enforcement, compliance, and environmental justice director as acting there. This was a small office at the time, and we coordinated the enforcement activities within the regional office for all the environmental programs, and to focus on environmental justice, which was just emerging at this time as a area of focus for us. And then after those stints, I moved into the deputy director position with the Water Protection Division, where I gained enormous amount of experience in our water programs, the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act, what services our drinking water, as well as our sewage treatment and management of our surface waters. Again, quite an intense work. And then moving into the budgeting side and management side of the regional office, the acting deputy assistant regional administrator. Again, this all is shaping my executive experience so that my portfolio would be ripe, so that when the opportunity presented itself, I would be a candidate to reckon with respect to being appointed to a senior executive position, to which I was, where I became an SES director for the Land and Chemicals Division, managing the hazardous waste management programs and the toxic chemicals program in the Region 3 offices. So that's quite a lengthy career path, and I was kind of racing through it because I really want to spend some time with some questions from the group, and hopefully we can have a candid discussion going back and forth. But I want to just leave you all with this thought that we accomplished a lot, but there's so much more that we as a society need to engage in, particularly when we talk about the emerging environmental challenges that are out there. I'm not going to go through all of them. You know some of them, out there, the PFAS discussion that's going on, the climate change discussion that's going on, in our society today. But I wanted to leave you with the thought that even though I've retired from EPA, I continue to give back. I want to make sure that we continue to address these challenges and shaping the minds of our students coming up. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of work with the university, and I'm hopeful that Lincoln will be building its sustainability program, and I'll have an opportunity to teach at the university, but right now I'm an adjunct at Villanova University, where I teach 2 classes, and we touch on all of these issues that my experience lends itself to share with the students. And it's been really great talking with the students and shaping the minds and helping them to understand not only how we got to where we are today, but what are the things that we're going to have to do, what types of decisions they are going to have to take on as they take over the leadership positions in a number of these environmental areas going forward. And for my own city of Philadelphia, this is being able to give back to my city here and being able to focus our work to address some of these challenges going forward. A lot of them find themselves in existing policies that need to change so that we don't find ourselves in areas of environmental injustices around the city. And here we're talking about licensing, inspections, and health policies and the likes. And so as a commissioner with the advisory commission here in Philadelphia, we have been empowered with the ability to look at emerging policies going forward and ensuring that they will not have any unfair treatment of folks with respect to environmental challenges in this policymaking, as well as looking backwards and looking at some of the policies that are currently in place that recommending to the mayor things that perhaps maybe we should change because they are continuing to allow for environmental injustices going forward. So with that in mind, I want to thank you all, and I will stop sharing my screen and I'll turn it back to our host.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Armstead. That was extremely interesting, and I think there's a lot to talk about here. And we do have one question from Kim Winder. Do you want me to read it to you? Would that be how you want to approach that, or can you see it? Or
let me pop open the chat. Okay, here we go. I got the chat opening, but yeah, if you want to read it, so in case because there's a couple of folks on the phone that don't have the chat.
What does POC stand for? Public
People of
Point
color.
of contact.
Person of color.
Yeah, the people of color. Person.
a POC, people of color, to stay abreast of environmental issues and concerns. Is this something we, Lincoln University, should be addressing to stay involved in with the health policies and environmental causes?
Yes, to all of that. I know that's a very easy, simple answer. Yes, to the question is we need to be in the same vein as our colleagues, our white brethren in the environmental field, being able to be networked in a number of the literature that's out there. There's lots of work, particularly in the sustainability space, the climate change space. You don't have to go far to look for it. You can just Google it now. You don't have to run down the Langston Hughes library. You can Google it and you can find it. And in particular, there's a plethora of information on environmental justice, starting with Dr. Bullard, who was down there in Houston, Texas, who I did have a pleasure to engage in the early days of the environmental justice movement. And so there's lots of information out there. And I think Lincoln is moving in that direction to build a sustainability program. I think what we're trying to do with the sustainability program, and we did brief the Board of Trustees on this. I think, Joe, were you at that Board of Trustees?
Yes, sir, I was.
And so we laid out a plan that both I and Dr. Hall wrote for the university, and now we're trying to move towards implementation of that plan. But that's going to take educating our professors, our administrators to shift their thinking in terms of environmental management. And this is not to reflect that Lincoln will lose its legacy. In fact, I would submit it's going to add to Lincoln's legacy, because as we prepare, new lawyers and new doctors, this field of environmental management is going to be key. When you think about health effects on our communities, when you think about asthma, you think about lead poisoning, there's a disproportionate effect on our communities, on minority communities. And so if we're not preparing our doctors and to know how to look for this, then we're doing a disservice to our legacy. At the same time, I say, on the political side, we do a disservice if we don't understand how rules are written, so that we don't run down the same path that we have ran down these past decades in indiscriminate pollution that affected disproportionately, once again, our communities. And so, when I was coming through Lincoln, I didn't know at that time that it will lead me to where I'm at now. but the passion is there. But that's what I mean, Lincoln was just like open your eyes up and say, you know what? Yeah, okay, you want to see that? Okay, let's go down that path. They didn't say, no, that's not something you want to study. They said, okay, let's explore it. Let's do this. Let's go and try that. And so I remember finally my professors, Dr. Harrison, Dr. Smucker, Dr. Subarero, I mean, all these guys, they were about the science and about the engineering and the physics and how things work, which is what the environmental management is all about, is how it works and how it affects. And so I was really excited about it and happy that they gave me that space to be who I am today.
John, you in your last slide, you had SES as your last position. What
Yes.
does that stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry. So yes, that's a good question. So it's the SES is the Senior Executive Service. It is the highest rank of public service that you can attain in the federal government. So essentially, I reported to the political appointee. So I was that individual that when there's a transition in government, I helped run the region. Well, in fact, I did. When during the transition from Obama to Trump, I ran the regional office with one other person who was the acting regional administrator, and I was the acting deputy regional administrator. We ran the regional office for a year until the political appointee could come in to take over, and we report to that political appointee. We were the linchpin between the career service and the political, and so as you can imagine, that was a pretty challenging 4 years that I had.
I'm glad we continued this session and didn't reschedule it. We have a good number of participants, and I think some of the questions pertain to your earlier remarks. And so I think we should go ahead and let the students continue to ask questions. I have a lot to say about your presentation and your career and your path. Having similar experiences, but anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We could share that for sure. And I was just glancing at the chat there, and Robbie, I'm sure you can probably relate to this if you had similar journey down this path. Was it intimidating? Oh, you better believe it. It was very intimidating. And there were times when I just wanted to cuss somebody out. But I had good mentors that would just say, okay, John, you need to just go walk away for a day or two. So the nuance there is, like, you saw a number of those acting jobs. There were a number of times that my staff said, John, you should have gotten that job. But there were other things at work.
Mhm.
Okay, now I could have went one or two ways. I could have got stupid and ignorant and started blessing everybody out, or I could suck it in, figure out what was happening, and then manage around it. I chose the latter, and I would encourage anyone to do that. And one of my mentors said to me, said, if there's something that you don't understand, then there's a piece of the puzzle that you don't have. And whenever something happened that I didn't understand, I always took a step back. And then I look at all the different things that are happening around me to get the different pieces of the puzzle. And sometimes I can navigate where I needed to be, but sometimes, you know, it's just not going to work. And so you find that other avenue, staying clear to my goal, but I'm just finding a different way to get there. Many folks looked at, say, John, you jumped around a lot. I say, yeah, I did. But if you look at my career, it's very strategic. It's very strategic in terms of where I went and what training that I developed. So that when I got to the point where they needed senior executive, I've had all of those skills listed and more.
Mhm.
Information management, computer systems. That was a new thing. I was teaching my boss how to use a computer. Okay. And he appreciated that. And he, and still is to this day, a good mentor of mine. And he said, okay, yeah, I need you to, and he's the one that really pushed me in a lot of places. So very intimidating, continues to be even to this day. Many conferences I go to, they look and they, oh, well, is Mr. Armstead here? I say, yeah, I'm here, right here. Many meetings I went to, I'm sitting at the table and I'm the only brown-skinned person sitting at the table.
Can we reinforce your earlier observations that Lincoln gives us a world-class education and that it prepares us, it gives a very broad background that prepares us for many, many challenges and opportunities?
Absolutely. And I would be remiss if I didn't say Lincoln was not easy. It was hard. And at the time, I would get angry at some of those professors. But let me tell you, the university nurturing, I guess is the word that I want to use, allowed me to understand what was going on, that they weren't really putting me down, they were building me up and allowing me to use the intellect that I had, as opposed to being so aggressive in approach. And so it's amazing that I think the university, the way, at least the biology department, I can only speak about the biology and chemistry department because that's where I came through. Because we had our battles with the administration back then at Lincoln, and but they taught us how to navigate in that space. And I took those skills with me when I left Lincoln to University of Maryland, to the state of Maryland when I worked for the state, and to EPA in navigating the bureaucracy, if you will. Really, really challenging, but I don't think I could have gotten where I'm at without Lincoln helping me to calm me down, knowing how to calm myself down from the onslaught of challenges that at the time I didn't know I was going to have, but Lincoln prepared me for that by the way they kept pushing me in that sense. And so yeah, that's why I'm always up at Lincoln and trying to give back. That's a good question, Robert.
We certainly commend you. What an extraordinary career, John. Just want to take a moment. We do have 3 students on, and so so that you know who they are, just have them introduce themselves
All
just
right.
briefly. They can tell where they're from and what their goal is at Lincoln. Let's start with Ayana, and then Abigail, and then Bria.
Hello, my name is Iana Harris. I am a junior here at Lincoln University. I'm currently taking up English. After graduation, I plan on attending graduate school to get my master's in English. And then following that, I would like to get my PhD in education to teach at the collegiate level.
Abigail.
Hi, my name's Abigail Wilson. I'm a senior at Lincoln. My major is sociology. And after I plan on continuing my education and going into project management.
And where are you from, Abigail?
I'm from Boston.
All right. And Bria.
Hi, I'm Bria. I'm from Maryland. I'm also a junior, and my major is human services. And I want to start out in crisis intervention and then work my way into psychiatry.
Thank you so much. And I do want to give a special welcome to Reverend Shane Austin. It's good to see you. It's the first time I think you've joined us this semester. It's wonderful. I have a feeling you guys know each other.
Class of 75. They were among the ones that harassed us when we came on the yard.
No, they didn't do that, did they?
No. We didn't do that. At least I didn't anyway. But it's good to see everybody. Thanks for, I just happened to see the notice, and I said, no, it's on now. Let me jump on and see what's going on. It's good to see John. Glad to hear you, man. Congratulations on a successful career.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to go back to the students because they pointed out something that I wanted to make sure I put some emphasis on. And that is the environmental field is not limited to scientists and engineers.
Mhm.
And in fact, I spent most of my time hiring folks that were not engineers and scientists, communication specialists. Dr. Button, we need them. Because one of the challenges we're going to have going forward is how do we talk to communities? We can't go into the communities. One of the things I've learned in my career is you can't go into community and talk the talk in terms of science and engineering.
Mhm.
They're going to not want to listen to you. I don't care what color you are, they don't want to listen to you. So we had to learn how to talk to communities. And so I'm a scientist, but I'm also an executive, okay? And so I know when I don't have a skill, I'm going to go out and get it. And that's what we did. So we hire communication specialists. So we hire English majors, we hire journalists, we hire those folks to help us with that. We hire lawyers, of course, we can't do anything without the lawyers, but we hire folks who are in all fields. We have a number of Lincoln students who are working at EPA in information management, computers, systems, okay? Because somebody's got to run the systems. We need accountants. Why? Not only do we have to manage the billions of dollars that we manage over the years, yes, I said billions. One of my responsibilities was managing billions of dollars in funds from the federal government to state governments and local governments and communities. Well, I'm not an accountant. So we hire accountants. So the field of environmental management is not limited to the scientists. And it's important that we all understand that because you too can help us get to where we need to be as a society, where we can become more sustainable, because that's the whole goal, because we can't keep going on the trajectory that we are on. You know, the population is increasing. We're having an impact on our environment as climate change is showing. And if we don't start making some shifts and changes in the way we are doing business, we're going to find ourselves at a catastrophic point where we're not going to be able to walk back from. So we need urban planners. How do we design a new urban environment that's sustainable? I mean, that's that's some of the work that I'll be doing with the advisory commission, is how do we, build towards the future while also trying to deal with the past, challenges and mitigating those effects from the past while looking forward. And those are going to be some hard decisions, because, folks are not going to be able to appreciate things that we need to do in order to be sustainable. Joe, you got your hand up, man. You in class, man?
Yeah, I'm in class. For your people, I'm on the trustee board, and John came in and gave a presentation. But later on, we got a group coming in talking about putting solar panels on Lincoln's campus. And if we had not been prepped by John and his people as to the importance of clean energy, that can't tell you how open-minded the trustee board became, because John came in and gave us a clear understanding of what we're facing at Lincoln.
And Lincoln is when I look at the campus, there's no reason we should be on the grid.
I know.
We got all that land out there. We should be selling electricity back to.
Hold it. That's the plan.
Because you got all that land, it's just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's the way I discussed it with folks. I said, look, you got an opportunity where you can train Lincoln students.
Oh yeah.
In an emerging field, so they can be studying the engineering and how to build solar systems, how to install solar systems and connect them to the electric grid of the nation. Imagine Lincoln in front being of this.
Chester County will be the biggest electric contractor.
So that's just some of the things I get really excited about. When we talk about sustainability and the things that we can do, but it's not going to come easy just because we got the words. We got to have the expertise in all these different fields of study. And again, this is directed to you students. You may not be in the environmental space, but keep the environment in your mind as you're moving in your selected careers, because I would submit it's going to touch you somewhere down the road. And having that understanding will help guide your decision making in whatever field of human endeavor you engage in. Dr. Button.
Yes, so speaking of students, does the EPA have a department of scholarships or internships or programs to invest in educational programs? Is that something we should be looking at?
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the other hats that I wear is I'm on the board with the EPA Alumni Association. And we're working with the new administration right now, even as we speak. I'm planning a roundtable discussion with Lincoln students about the internship programs at EPA. We are hiring, I should say I don't work at EPA anymore, but EPA is hiring right now aggressively. And so I've been sending announcements to Dr. Hall, who hopefully is getting it out to the career folks. But that recruitment piece will be coming up. EPA has internship programs. You can apply for those jobs. In fact, those announcements is through USA Jobs. So I would encourage your students to go to USA Jobs and then just Google what's happening through USA Jobs and what is available in the internship program. The beauty about the internship program, it's not just with EPA, this is with the federal sector entirely. If you are selected as an intern, you already got your foot in the door. And you really have to mess up not to be picked up permanently. You understand what I'm saying? And so being able to get that internship where you can work in the summer and get paid, and then go back to school, and then come back during breaks and get paid, and then come back the next summer and get paid. And then once you graduate for 6 months, you have an opportunity to be picked up permanently by that organization. but you would also have that skills, you would have that job training that's going to, you'll be able to do your resume. You will have something really substantive to put on your resume. That's a great question, Dr. Bud. I'm glad you mentioned that. But the agency does have those internship programs that are available.
Well, since you're so passionate about it, and I think you've spoken, but I'd like to hear the answer again. Are you in our classrooms talking like this? Because, for example, the other night, Dwight Murph came to class and the students learned so well by just absorbing, not an email or what. We just need the personal approach, like what you're giving us tonight is just wonderful. So if you're on Lincoln's campus in classrooms, you should be, if you don't mind me saying.
I do come up to Lincoln in the classroom. I've spoken to through Dr. Hall in her class, but I am reaching out. I'll reach out to you. I'm going to turn it back to you, Dr. Button, because I'm going to challenge you to invite me to one of your classes. Okay, because I think this fits in with the whole sustainability program across the campus. You know, I very much like to speak with folks outside of the science space, and so to help them so they can hear, not only just my career journey, but even information about environmental management, environmental science, without an eye towards, without diving deep into the technology and science. Because if you notice, I didn't get into the technical side of this. I can, as Reggie knows,
Yeah.
I can dive into, the chemical compounds and all of that, but that's not what this audience was all about. And that's one of the things that I learned through my training is, to tailor your presentation. So, but it's not innate, but you can teach that. And that's what I try to, when I'm looking at students, and I'm talking to the students down again, when I'm looking for students, I don't necessarily am looking for someone who's an expert in their field, but they have the ability to grasp and to learn. Because I can teach you environmental science, but I can't teach you your expertise. If you're an English major, I can't teach you English, but I can teach you the environmental side of it, and you can then take it to the next level.
John, I have a question. John?
Going back a step, is there an academic program, maybe a degree granting program or a certificate program at Lincoln preparing students for this type of work? And if not, are the faculty and staff there and some alumni and former board members prepared to make these type of recommendations to the university?
We're moving in that direction. I don't want to put Joe on the spot there, but we are moving in that direction. That was the whole idea behind the presentation to the board. Lincoln has a minor in environmental science. The challenge that Lincoln has is the academic credentials for environmental management is not strong enough to get the environmental jobs that are out there. Let me say that again. The environmental credentials that Lincoln offers is not strong enough for positions in the environmental field at the level that I'm at. And that is simply a function of where Lincoln's focus was, and I understand that. But I think an opportunity presents itself where we can strengthen those credentials, and that's the whole idea behind the sustainability plan that we developed for the university. And I'm hopeful that I think it's Dr. Joseph, who is the dean. She has it. She was at the board briefing. I'm hopeful that
She's a provost.
She's a provost, right? So I'm hopeful that she will start to have those conversations amongst her deans, so that we can do that. But again, I know Dr. Allen is very much interested in moving it. She has endorsed this plan. We worked hand in hand with her for a couple of years putting it together. I've had my political come to the university, and we signed a MOU with Lincoln EPA. We have an MOU. That's because I pushed it. And it's still, that MOU is still operating, still going strong. But I think Lincoln can do more. I will be honest with you, Robert, Lincoln can do more in this space to prepare our students for this career in environmental management. And it's, if finance is your big thing, you know, there's a lot of money in environmental management. Trust me.
And the emphasis on historically Black colleges and universities with this current administration.
Yes, and in fact, EPA has a whole new council that they just brought to light. It's a whole interagency working group on focused on HBCUs. And as a member of the EPA Alumni Association, as a board member, we're working with them to make those connections even stronger. So we've got a number of HBCU presentations. I know we're going to be reaching out to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We've already reached out to Lincoln here, also Delaware State, and then several of my colleagues across the nation. They're reaching out to the HBCUs in their regions. Clark Atlanta, Prairie View down in Region 6 in the Texas area. So we're reaching out to what we call minority serving institutions. So we're looking at not just HBCUs, but all of minority serving institutions. And we're trying to build that, this whole process of learning for our MSIs. Reggie, you were trying to jump in there.
I had a question. I was wondering, you mentioned working with the political appointee. What's that like? And how, and always wondered, how knowledgeable is the appointee of the agency that they oversee?
Like
The question was how what?
Like the president.
Like the president, one of them.
So I'll be candid with you, Reggie. I've seen 7 changes in administrations, and I didn't want to see another change in administration. That's why I retired. 42 years is enough time.
Right.
Each administration is different. Each political appointee is different. Sometimes you get in a political appointee is they're so immersed on the political side of the equation that they don't quite understand that they can't do some things that they want to do. And it's my job and my fellow SES director's job to try to tell them no without telling them no, or to at least advise them that if you do that, this will happen. If you do that, it is breaking the law. If you do that, it will cause this type of challenge for your other program areas. So our job as senior executive is to advise and to counsel our political appointee. We are not the decision maker. That's the challenge, at this career level. And it's a space that you have to navigate carefully because there's a lot of things that you have to understand going on. We've had some political appointees that really understood how the organization worked, and they were a charm to work with. And I don't mean Democratic or Republican. I had bad Democratic appointees and I had bad Republican appointees, but I've had good Republican appointees and I had good Democratic appointees. And they were a joy to work with. They understood, and we were able to get things done. Navigating that political space is something that is not, you can't teach that. It has to be learned. And I really think my career lent itself to that by being exposed into these different spaces that I was in. I got to know and understand these different ways of doing business. And I always kept that mantra in my mind. If there's something you don't understand, then there's a piece of the puzzle that you don't have. And when you don't have that piece of the puzzle, the best advice I can give you is to shut up and listen. You know,
Okay.
as the old adage says, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth.
All right. And I sent you a private chat message. And also, I'm really impressed with your career. It's good seeing you again.
It's good to see you again, man.
I have another question, Mr.
Yeah.
Armstead. Have you run into, well, I'm sure you have, but my question is, how do you deal with obvious inequities? When you see something wrong in the system, have you had to circumvent it? Have you chosen to leave? Have you addressed it? How do you handle those things?
Well, I will disabuse you of the notion that we circumvented. Okay, that's something I never tried to do, and I would disabuse anyone that would try to circumvent. You got to follow the rule of law going forward. Now, with that said, sometimes you can ask the question, and one of the things that I've learned through my career is ask the question 5 times. Ask the question why. Particularly with a political appointee. You know, you ask that question why 5 times, and almost invariably they will come to understand that the reason you're asking that why question is you're trying to see how the current law or regulation would fit with what the political appointee may be what they might be trying to do. If we could do it, we'll do it. We may not like it, but as long as it's not breaking the law, that's what you have to do. And unfortunately, with folks that don't have that understanding of all the different moving parts, they will come down on their side of the agenda, and I get that. And that's another space that we as executives have to navigate, knowing the pulse, if you will. That's where, as I mentioned earlier, about having folks that understand communities, you know, being able to work with communities. Those were, they were my eyes and ears out there. You know, what's the community pulse? So I have that in my arsenal when I'm talking to that political appointee to say, you know, this could be challenging, so that he or she knows that this could be an issue that could cause them blowback in another spectrum, which I'm not in. So it's never easy along those lines. And that's some of the things that I don't miss that part of my job. You know, sometimes navigating that space, sometimes many sleepless nights where you're trying to think through something, particularly when you're trying to protect your staff who may be passionate about, you know, you got to do it this way, and you got to tell them, well, the boss doesn't want to do it that way, and you know, and there's nothing that says we can't.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's why I like that's where I like my lawyers. I always ask my lawyers to say, okay, am I breaking the law or am I bending the law? Okay, there's a difference. You can bend the law, but you can't break it. And the politician, a good politician, understands that. And they will bend the law. But like I said, the last 4 years was a challenge on that. There were some broken laws there. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I appreciate this time.
We appreciate you. My goodness.
And Dr. Button, again, yes, please, once you get yourself going, have me out at the campus, have me back out the classes.
I have to ask you how you would handle ancient, I mean, I teach world literature at this point. English, you know, sort of not, I'm gonna have to think hard how this subject fits in, actually. Industrial waste in Victorian England, how's that?
Well, think about what happened to waste. What did they do with their waste materials back in ancient literature? You know,
well, that's a really good question. I'll certainly plumb the students and find out what they think.
Yeah, just ask it.
And sometimes they throw it out the window.
That's exactly what happened.
And that's why men walked on the outside and women walked on the inside. Not because it was a courteous thing to do for women, but because the men were exposing the women to that waste.
It's also an explanation for some of the plagues that started and ran rampant.
That is
as
correct.
well.
That is correct. And because a lot of the sewage, the early days, just the way the medieval streets were designed that you just throw your waste right down the street and let it roll and run down the road.
And that explains a lot of the world trade, because the trade in scents and perfumes was getting stuff from Asia, so that the rich could have their perfume handkerchiefs and so forth as they went through the streets, and they were having it in their faces.
It's interesting to understand, and that so yeah, there's lots of ways you could tie it back. What you think about, in terms of history, to the environmental element.
Yes, I hear you. Okay. I take up the challenge.
Yeah, no, I got by the time that you were doing your work, John, I got a master's in technology and human affairs in 1974, coming from a French background, French major out of Lincoln. So your point about not having to necessarily have a science background in order to get into the field, resonates with me, because I did a lot of work in terms of STEM exposure for kids at the pre-college level for up to 2018, almost 50 years of doing that kind of work, 35, 40 years of running programs to get kids involved in the field. So there's lots of opportunities there. And Lincoln should really get on board, because it's really rewarding in a lot of ways to be engaged in this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, really would like to see Lincoln move forward on this.
Well,
We're working hard to get us there.
Okay. If I can be of any help, let Carol know.
We'll all get to work. Yes.
Dr. Button?
Well, I was going to say, the students have a 7 o'clock deadline on food, and you've been most generous with your time. And we, particularly Bob Johnson, wants to talk a lot more than we do. And I hope we've satisfied your desire for more conversation this time, Bob. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. And Carol, unless do you have anything you want to say before we close?
No, just the biggest thank you that I could ever shout out.
Thanks very much, John.
Much appreciation.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, alumni.
And I hope students are safe given the situation that's going on up there.
Yeah, I just asked one student. She said she is safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
you all. And again, please do not hesitate, Carol, to reach out.
I certainly won't.
I'm a lifetime member of the Alumni Association, so
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you again. Thank you
Yeah.
again. All right, everybody, have a good evening.
Good evening.
We'll
Carol,
see you
are you
next
going to
week.
stay on for? Are you going to join that next call?
They canceled that meeting, Rob.
7 o'clock.
They canceled the 7 o'clock meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, email came in just a little while ago.
Okay.
From Deborah. Yeah, that was the alumni class meetings are going on. Getting ready for reunion time.
Okay.
What happened on campus?
Apparently there was an accident. I understand a vehicular accident which led to the bursting of gas lines.
Oh, okay.
And it's a dangerous situation. So they're pretty much evacuated the campus.
Yeah, as we understand it, they have no heat, no water.
And no food. Yeah.
And no food.
Not the best situation.
Yeah. All right, folks.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
God bless you all.